to the What You Don't Know podcast, brought to you by the Know Like Trust Report, a simple, actionable survey that asks the most important questions. I'm Teresa Nichols, and I'm honored to have our guest today, Courtney Cummings. She is a professional organizer, and her organization is called
The Stylish Organizer.
Nice. And tell me a little bit about your company and how it got started.
Sure. So the Stylish Organizer is a professional home and business organizing company that's based in Dayton, Ohio. And we serve clients that are really looking to sort of up their organizational game, whether it is looking for new storage options for some of their spaces and just creating different organizational systems that are going to work for their lifestyle, for their workflow, for their families, for their businesses, just ultimately to make things easier for people so that they can really concentrate on what's important, whether that's being with your family, whether that's getting your business up to that next level. Our job is to make that easier for you and put systems in place that are functional and realistic and will keep you organized into the future.
That's awesome. It
Thanks.
sounds like your job requires a lot of feedback.
Absolutely. Yes. We are
And
constantly soliciting feedback.
yeah, well, soliciting and giving,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
soliciting, like giving feedback to people. And I know for me, that's an interesting thing. I think you have to have that know, like, trust to open that door and say, hey, I want your feedback. So just share with me a little bit about how feedback comes into play with your organization, and what role does feedback play in your services to your clients?
Sure. So ultimately, when someone brings me in to come in and assess their space, I instantly am taking a look at the surroundings and taking everything in and hearing what it is that the client is saying about the things that are working or that are not working, and sort of processing that information and asking questions accordingly, just to sort of see, okay, what is going to be my specific target and approach to really make this like a successful experience for this client. So ultimately, I am soliciting information from them, asking them questions about how they use the space, what's working, what's not working, what's like their dream for using this space. Do they want additional like infrastructure in place, whether say it's like, a closet or a pantry, whether it's shelving or something like that that's going to help them be successful. So I am constantly using that information in order to really come up with a total game plan for the project that's going to then be able to be implemented and work for them and be something that's sustainable and easy to keep into the future so that they continue to be successful.
I know that, how long did you say you've been doing the organizing?
I've been doing organizing officially in this capacity for just about 2 years now.
Okay. And generally, I know you said you work with businesses as well as residents.
Yes.
So do you find that you do more?
Yes, definitely tend to lean more towards the residential clients. Worked with families with young kids that are just sort of drowning in stuff and need to find a way back to some sense of calm and order and functionality in their homes. I've also worked with empty nesters who are left with all the wonderful things that their students or their children who have left and become students, whether it's at college or something to that effect. And they kind of need to start going through things to figure out, what do we need, what don't we need, and how are we going to now utilize this space now that we've sort of reached that next level in our lives as far as a family. And then also folks who are in, transition, who are moving from one house to another and trying to figure out, how do I make this work? This kitchen is so different than what I had before. I don't know what I should do as far as a space plan and how I'm going to, function here. So really just helping people to, get in and tackle and navigate those different problems to find solutions that are going to work for them in all of those different spaces.
That's great. One thing that you said made me think about how these people are saying, we need your help. So that to me is it just creates this opportunity where you can allow or help somebody to live a bit more efficiently, a bit, like you said, calmly. Do you have any really good stories about things that you've been able to do that, and this is really interesting because this came up in one of my other interviews, that everybody kind of thinks differently, right? So I know it's such a weird thing to think that it might look like a common sense kind of a thing, like a really easy switch, but that person might say, "Wow, I didn't even think about that." And you have a lot of opportunities to come into a space and say, "Hey, what have you tried this?" And they might say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that." So what are your thoughts on that? Have you had those kind of moments where you were just able to kind of open somebody's eyes and, give them a fresh perspective?
Yeah. Fortunately, I have the pleasure of being able to do that a lot, which is nice because, again, um, as you said, we all think about things differently and we all have different perceptions of what's going to work best. And I think we can sometimes get down a specific road where it's like, well, this is the solution that I'm going to go towards because this makes the most sense. And so bringing in someone like me, like a professional organizer, to sort of look at your space, your area with fresh eyes to say, you know what, have you thought about this? And then you start to see, which is so rewarding. You start to see the wheels turning, and it's like,
Ah,
well, no, I had never thought about that before.
yeah,
Okay, well then what if we do this, this, and this? And so it really starts to sort of build that momentum and creates a really meaningful, I think, connection and the start of a relationship so that you really can work in tandem together to create this solution. Because ultimately, when I end up leaving and stepping out, like I'm leaving your home. It's your home. Like you are the ones that are living in it, not me. Or you are the business owner that is in that office every day or getting into that, storage room, into that inventory space. And ultimately, I need to be able to create something that's going to work for you once I
yeah.
leave and into the future. So it's it's really fun to again sort of come in and yeah, assess these different spaces and really think, okay, well, this is how it is now. But what if, say, we got rid of those, which I hate, sorry. I hate those wire shelves, say in
Yeah,
the pantry, and
yeah,
let's think about the space and let's create zones and let's set up categories so that we are going to make this as efficient and simple and like intuitive as possible for you and in this space. And when you really can start to think kind of outside the box and create these kinds of custom kind of solutions that are tailored specifically to your needs, I mean, it just blows the roof off of everything. And that's really one of the biggest joys that I've had is just to be able to make these huge transformations for people. And even if you think, okay, well, an organized pantry, what's that going to do for my life? Well, if you can open that door and go, okay, I know where everything is and it's all labeled. My kids can be, independent and can get their own snacks. My husband or my spouse or my partner or whatever it might be, my wife knows where this thing is so that we are able to then really independently know where everything is and also give that sense of independence to everybody else that's in our family or in our business. And that's just, I think, such a rewarding kind of feeling and one of the things that I really live for with what I'm doing.
yeah. What are zones?
Zones. Okay, so like I like to like, say we're thinking about a pantry. I like to set up zones. Like this is the snack zone. So all of your snacks, this is their permanent location, their home. Like this is say your baking zone. And so all of the baking items that you need to go to are right here. This is your dinner, kind of cooking zone. Like, okay, so if I need to know what we've got to be able to make something like in a snap for dinner, like this is where I'm going to look. So really creating those different zones and those different areas so that it doesn't feel like, oh, I have some baking items over here and another one over here and something here. It is able to compile things so that it's again more intuitive when you are, seeking to do that activity or looking for that one item, you can know
Yeah,
right where it is.
that's a great tip. I like that.
Thanks. Thanks.
How long are you usually in one client setting? Is it usually like a couple of weeks or is it longer?
It really depends. So, if a client is coming in and having me really assess multiple spaces in their house, it can definitely be a longer project. And again, it's really, I try to take my time for sure in really, again, listening to the client, getting their feedback, getting their input to really then sort of internalize everything and come up with a plan. So that's really during sort of the planning process and stage, and where I'm really trying to come up with different ideas and different options for them. And then I am in communication with them for quite some time as I'm coming up with a plan, just to again sort of give them little kernels of what it is that I'm working on, and just to make sure again that we're still on that right path together and that we're headed in the appropriate direction. And then once we sort of do the ordering, of course, given depending upon different like retailers for different items and things like that that we're ordering, it might depend on when we can actually come in and like get the work done. But I've gotten it down pretty much to a science where generally, as long as it's not some vast, huge, enormous, basement or storage area, I'm usually able to do a space in about like one full day when I actually get in there
Wow.
for the project work day.
Okay.
But there have been, previous sessions where we've come in potentially and I've helped clients to really start editing or purging, minimizing, kind of whatever you want to call it, so that we can really get down into the nitty gritty, because you don't want me to organize something that you're planning on tossing out. So that's really sort of step one in the entire process, is to really assess all of your items and your needs and in the space that you have, to get down to, okay, what are we really using, what are we really needing, what do we really love, and then creating a system and a solution that's going to really highlight those things and work for the way that you need that space to work for you.
Well, also you had said that, of course, you said you've been in this business for about 2 years.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about the beginning. How did you jump out? How did you start meeting people? How did you start getting clients?
Sure. So I've lived in this community for the vast majority of my life. So I have very much the pleasure of knowing a lot of people in a different circles. So
Okay.
I started putting out some, initial feelers to some, friends and family members that was like, I've been reevaluating what I'm doing. I had been in the nonprofit sector for so long previously, and really wanted to sort of, serve the community in a different kind of capacity. Started putting out some of those feelers initially, like, what do you think about this? Like, I have such a passion for organization, but also for finding like functional and beautiful, solutions for people, and aesthetics, and sort of the crafting the details are really important to me. And so when I started having these initial conversations about starting this business with friends and family members, they all were like, well, yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, that's always good. That's a great form of feedback too, when what you're thinking and what you believe you're capable of doing, that others see that in you. And that was just huge. And being definitely a planner myself, it took it took a lot of guts for me to sort of take that risk and leave that, full-time cushy job that I enjoyed doing and loved serving my community in, but really to sort of take that next step forward, see, what I was capable of, how I could utilize the skills that I have, and some of the talents that I have, to really help improve other people's lives, because ultimately that's what it's about. And I love being able to connect with people on that level and really make an impact that's going to bring them joy, and bring them also some calm and some serenity, because we all need that.
First official client?
I do. So it was a friend of mine who agreed to be sort of one of my first like guinea pig, and it was her pantry space, and she had this pretty large walk-in pantry space. Fortunately, it already had good shelves, so it had some good infrastructure in place. But it was just a matter of, she had stuff everywhere, which, no judgment. I totally get it. She's got kids, she's got, a spouse, she's got, a dog, busy, busy, busy life. But she was like, okay, like this needs some help. So came in, again, had conversations with her, assessed the space, worked with her to really get rid of the things that she didn't need, and then just really to streamline her systems and create these different, again, zones and categories, and just create this space that was going to function so much better for their family. And it was so fun too, because I was able to work on the project primarily while the whole entire family was gone. Since, she's a friend of mine, no problem being, in her home and all of that. So it's always so fun to see the reaction if people aren't there during the process to say, oh my gosh, how did you do that? And like, how did you get all of this stuff and how does it still fit in there? But like, it doesn't feel like it's crammed. So that was just so fun. And she's like, oh my gosh, Courtney, like you have to do this. And then when I officially then fully launched the business after I had, a couple little guinea pigs just to make sure that I loved what I was doing and that they loved what I did, and was able to sort of, again, hone in on what was going to make the most sense for the business itself. Then it was just so wonderful to be able to share that.
Yeah, that's really cool. So
Yes.
so were you there when they came back? Did you
Yes.
kind of coordinate, like, okay, you're back, and then you just like unveiled the project to
Yes.
them?
It was sort of like what you think of in, like, I don't know, the HGTV sessions where where they come in and like see your new space. I try to make it as dramatic like that as possible, just because it's really fun if we can have that distance, during those final sort of pieces, so that it really does feel like, oh my gosh, it's like a totally different space. And again, it's just wonderful to see the clients' reactions to that when they're able to walk in and everything is done. And, they put in a lot of work initially and coordination and such with me, but then to be able to come in and do that for them. And then they're left with this, beautifully organized space. It's such a rewarding time.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about particularly know, like, trust.
Yeah.
Sounds like a part of how you build trust is having this vibe of no judgment. And that's really important to for people to know that you don't have a judgment. But can you talk about that a little bit about how you create that vibe of that, like, no, like, trust and no judgment?
Yeah, sure. So on any initial consult, especially if it's someone that I don't know, which happens all the time, I
Yeah.
just want to come in and learn about them and know a little bit about them, understand what it is that they're looking for, what are their goals, what are their objectives, and just sort of build that base of knowledge. And I try to be as open as possible in hearing what it is that they're looking for, and then being able to interject a little bit here and there. And building relationships has always been really important to me. And I'm definitely I'm a connector kind of person, if that's a term. I love to be able to get to know people and how they work and how they function, and just listen to what their stories are, because that's really what a lot of this is all about. And so getting to know them, and then I hope that from getting to know them that they're feeling a sense of comfort with me, and that they're beginning to sort of move into that, okay, I like what she's saying. I can see that she is listening to what I'm saying, and she has built that trust, for this kind of relationship to be successful. And then I'm also very transparent about my work process. And I try to be as communicative as possible, just all along the way, so that, again, they are getting exactly what they see. I am who I say I am. I do what I say I'm going to do. That to me is one of the most important things, is to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah,
That I
that's
think is one of the biggest trust builders. Because if people just aren't sure what to expect or what you're going to do, then how can you truly build that relationship with them and have those bonds of trust with them? So, that's ultimately what I do. And I love also to be able to, after a project, say a month or 2 or 3 have gone by, I like to check in on clients. How are things going? Are these systems still working for you? Is there anything that isn't working for you? Because ultimately, again, it's their home, it's their business. It has to function and work for them. So honestly, if something isn't working and they're like, well, I'm not sure about this, and what do you think if we did that? It's like, absolutely, that's great. Let's try this. here's a great, here's a great different bin that if you want to use this, if that's going to function better for you or for your kids or for your employees, just having those conversations so that it can continue to be a relationship even beyond just the actual time frame of work that we are collaborating together on.
I love that. I really love that. I build websites, and I was talking to a client, and actually I don't even think I was talking to a client. I think I just went out to their website. And on their website, I noticed that this work that I had done wasn't done. So apparently I just didn't hit save. And I'm like,
Oh no.
yeah. And I had to go back and spend a couple hours and redo everything that I did. And I thought, had I not caught that, had the client caught that, they would have just said she didn't do her job. She
Yeah.
didn't do. So I was really glad that I caught it and I was able to fix it. Then I went back to another client and just said, this happens, this kind of thing happens, that I think I did the work. I think I had saved. Maybe I jumped up real quick to do something and came back and it had, I didn't save it or something. And we were able to talk about it. And he did tell me one thing that was still left undone. So,
Mm.
I just thought, I'm really glad that I said something to him versus him not saying something to me, because he was just like, well, she didn't do the work. Oh, well, it's done. I already paid her, whatever, and just didn't say anything at all. So I love that idea of just checking back on somebody and just saying, how's everything going? Have they ever said anything to you that made you feel like you needed to go back and help with anything or update anything? How has that been when you've asked for that feedback? How has that gone?
Sure, yeah. So usually it's just been small things. So then I'm able to sort of give advice, via text, via email, over the phone, whatever it might be, and
Yeah.
then work them through. Like if there's something that either they're like, well, it turns out we actually had this after you left and we forgot, and or whatever it might be. Then it's like, okay, well, my solution would be, why don't we try this, this, and this, and then generally I would give them some time to try to implement that, and then again check back in to confirm, okay, we had talked about this, did this end up working? If not, like, do you need another potential solution? So I've been able to pretty much facilitate most of the things that way. One service though that I do offer for people is that, especially when it comes mostly to closets, because some folks obviously don't have the luxury for these massive walk-in closets, so they're smaller closets. Well, they can kind of only keep like seasonal clothes here or there. So if I'm helping them with like a seasonal clothing transition, then I may go back in another 3 months or 6 months and help them to, okay, we're going to transition from summer to winter, but we know we've got a great system already in place with those weather tight totes chilling in your, basement or in your garage. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to work with you and we're going to swap it and we're going to get it back up. So it's nice to be able to have those kinds of interactions with clients as well, so that they're able to maintain their systems and not feel a sense of being overwhelmed if it's like, well, but she got it all right and I don't know if I can do this. And but
Yep.
also it's like
Yeah.
I'm just a person. Like, I love what I do, but I'm just a person, and anyone can do this
Yeah.
with sort of the help and the guidance. And that's ultimately what I'm trying to be for people. And it's also been wonderful. I've had clients too even reach back out, and if it wasn't something specific that they were having an issue with or something, but it's like, hey, I heard about this from a friend, what do you think you might suggest? So like, I'm happy. I love being able to help people in certain capacities. Now ultimately I also need to make a living, so I can't give it all away for free. But if there are tips, if there are tricks, if there are little things that are going to again help people to live better, live easier, live with less clutter, less chaos, then I'm gonna do my best to be able to help in whatever capacity that I can.
That's really great. Let me go back because you had said, oh, like tips. So do you have a place online where you have organizing tips?
I do. I try to share organizing tips either on my Instagram page or on my Facebook page.
Okay.
Occasionally, just for people, I had a little series that happened early on that was like Tip Tuesday. So I have some things on there. I've
Okay.
also been, which has been really wonderful, I've been able to have actually some conversations with some online magazines and publications recently. So I've had some tips and tricks shared in Homes and Gardens magazine,
Yeah.
House Beautiful magazine, Living ETC, which is actually based out of London, which was super cool, going across the pond digitally to give some tips and tricks. And then I have some other things coming up as well. So I try to share those as well if there are articles that are published in some of those different, online publications, to be able to share them out so that people have access to them. And then, randomly, especially if I'm encountering something with like multiple clients, like everyone seems to be asking me about this, this specific topic. It's like, okay, here's a quick 3-step, system to get through this. Or, okay, here's how I love to fold a towel, or here's how to best utilize your drawers. I'll share little tips and tricks on my social media again, because I want to make organizing accessible for everyone. And I realize that not everybody has the capacity to hire someone like me, but I still think that being organized gives you this sense of, uh, again, calm and a little bit, of order as well, and a sense of like, okay, I've got this, under control, in the best way possible, as far as in that sense, to be able to then have this sense of pride in your home and in your space, and be able to know what you have and know that you pretty much love everything that you have.
Yeah. That is really great. It does save time too when everything is in its place and you know where it is. And I mean, it does really save a lot of time to do that. So yeah, so I really appreciate that you are offering that to people, and I love that people are being responsive to it. That's really cool too. Do you ever have, I know you mentioned a little bit about how you might have a client that you don't know.
Yes.
Are people just finding you online? Are they finding you like through your social media? Are they finding you on Google and they're just calling you and saying, "Hey, I need your services."
Yeah, it's really been a mishmash of things. So, of course, when I first started the business, a lot of it was, referrals from people that I knew or clients that I had. And I mean, that is like the best gift, is that if somebody feels compelled enough that the work that you have done should be shared with other people that they know, and then to be able to refer on, that's just gold star. Love that. But then, yeah, I actually have had people that have just either found me on social media, who have, fortunately Googled me, and have just found my organization, my business, and then been able to say like, okay, well, after visiting the website, maybe visiting social and seeing that, and like, okay, like the person, this, business, this person is like legit. And then, yeah, I've gotten contact forms, I've gotten phone calls. It's been running the gamut. So I'm very thankful for all of those different avenues, for being able to, again, connect with people and really make a difference on how they're living.
Yeah. Have you had in the 2 years, have you had anything that really surprised you? Just some situation that was a little bit of an enigma, or, something that you weren't quite expecting.
I did have one, I don't know if it was necessarily an enigma, but a client that I've been working with, and I'm on, I think now like phase 3 or something like that of her home. She's been wonderful to work with. She has this really cool old farmhouse that has these like not super wide, but like real deep, like drawers, but they were right next to her stove. And so she also is, her aesthetic is more that she likes clean counters. Like I'm like that as well, and didn't want, to put like one of those crocks out and stick like all her like cooking utensils in it and things like
Okay.
that. But she's like, I can't, like, I don't know how to use this like 10-inch by 10-inch by 18-inch deep like drawer. Like, what can you do? So it was one of those things where it's like, okay, put your thinking cap on, Courtney. And I really had to go in and sort of take a look. I mean, and it's funny, I'm literally like out there measuring her utensils, but you do what you have to do. Like, how are these going to fit? Like, you have a lot, but you actually did pare these down, but you do actually use all of these, and they all can fit in the drawer. But if you want to find them, like, we got to find a different solution. So I sort of thought back to some of the advice that I try to give all the time is to use your vertical space. A lot of people in general in many spaces don't think that you can go up, you know. And in this case with a deep drawer, it was like, okay, I want to use this vertical space because unfortunately it was just shallow enough that I can't stick my utensils straight up because that would have been like A plus easy solution. But you know what? I've got some great stacking clear organizers. So I found some that fit her dimensions and was able to essentially do like a 3-tiered like system to be able to utilize that full depth of that space and then leave the ones that she uses the most often on top. But since they're all stackable, you can just take out the little bin, the container, to get to the one that you need to, instead of trying to like take everything out of the drawer and dump it on your counter just to find that one wooden spoon that you happen to like. So that was one where I want to say from like a drawer perspective, like it took me a while. It took me longer than it should have to organize a drawer. It sounds silly, but it's just fun, you know, again, interacting in some of these older spaces and some of like the little quirks and things that they have and walls that aren't quite straight. And in this case, drawers that we think were used actually for as like bread drawers, like back in the day. And hence why they were deep. You could fit like, you know, stack a couple loaves of bread on top of each other and then close the drawer. So yeah.
It's really cool. It sounds like you are like creative problem solver, which is really great, and that you don't give up easy, you know, you don't just say, "Oh, well, good luck with that drawer," you know, you like found a really nice solution for your client. So that's really awesome. And
Yeah,
I'm
thanks.
sure that she appreciated that too. So that's really
Yeah,
cool.
she did. And again, like I checked in on her afterwards and like, okay, like I know this is a little outside the box, but like, is this working for you? And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, it's so much better. Like, obviously, like we're limited because like that's the drawer that like I have to put my utensils in because that's what I've got. But it's definitely a better solution than what she had before. And you know what? In this case, I am not letting, you know, perfect be the enemy of, or yes, perfect be the enemy of the good. So not every solution necessarily is going to be perfect, while I would absolutely love if it was, but
Yeah.
definitely some sort of improvement and upping the functionality factor and also hopefully the style factor, the beauty factor. I mean, that's already, you know, elevating your space in that capacity so that you can live and work and function better.
Yeah, that's so cool. What was your Instagram?
Instagram is at the stylish organizer.
Nice.
Same thing for Facebook. You know, the stylish organizer, pretty easy to find me. So yeah, would love it if people want some tips and tricks and want to sort of see some of the behind the scenes for what it's like to be an organizer. I'd love for people to follow. Yeah.
Really cool. And so everybody that's on the What You Don't Know podcast
Yeah.
gets a free No Like Trust report. So I will send that to you, and you can customize it. You can put your own little message on it if you want, and put your picture on it. So if you would like to do it, you'll have it at your disposal to do that. So
Thank you.
thank you, and thanks so much. And what would be really cool is maybe we'll circle back and do another podcast at
I would
some point.
love that. This has
Yeah.
been so much fun. Yes, thank you so much for having me on and being able to
Thank
talk about this. And it's just feedback is just it's so important in everything that we do. And it's just I really think it's one of the sort of grounding pieces of establishing relationships and having, you know, meaningful, you know, conversations as well with people. And so it's great that you are using this platform to really talk about it and zero in on different ways to get feedback.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, and we will talk again soon.
Sounds great.